Howdy. It feels good to feel a bit better. There has been some flu and fever and stuff in the last 2 days or something. Wasn't too fun. Francesco Zanna, who made the original pictures, probably of the Dolomites, but it's the Alps region in Italy, I guess. And we have to talk about mountain water once again. Maybe not so much about wide rivers, but Mount St. Helens in the USA is a volcano. Everybody knows that it has the world's fastest growing glacier in its caldera, which might make us think about glaciers, their mechanisms, their importance and behaviors over once again. Maybe they are something completely different than just accumulated precipitation. Maybe. This is what I think, and we have really to take this possibility into account. Because, like, here you can see Mount St. Helens. The picture quality isn't good, but there's a glacier growing in the caldera. And obviously, you can see the white rivers all over the place. Nalchik, Russia, Montmort, France, Udine, Italy, Parma, Italy, Walgau, Germany, and they are all over. If you go to Indonesia, America, or wherever, you will find white rivers. And these are, like these 5 pictures here on top, they are all from the Alps region. France, no, actually, this is not. That's from Russia. So we have 4 pictures from the Alps, one from Russia and one from America. We also have the Southern Alps. The Southern Alps, officially Southern Alps, Gatiritri Otemoana, is a mountain range extending along much of the length of New Zealand's South Island, or island, reaching its greatest elevations near the range's western side. The name Southern Alps generally refers to the entire range, although separate names are given to many of the smaller ranges that form part of it. The range includes the South Island's main divide, which separates the water catchments of the more heavily populated eastern side of the island from those on the west coast. Politically, the main divide forms the boundary between the Marlborough, Canterbury, and Otago regions to the southeast and the Tasman and West Coast regions to the northwest. The Maori name of the range is Ka Tiritiri Otemoana, meaning the mirage of the ocean, which could be in a way that they rose from the ocean, and some people have even seen it. There might be also some dragons involved in the whole story, and these are the Southern Alps in winter. Yeah, maybe Frodo was running there. But, as some of you probably have heard already, there is something going on in New Zealand, on the northern island, here in the middle. There's a lake, there is quite some activity going on. And here on the left, 126 kilometers. There are several, maybe 3 or something. 158 kilometers in depth and 144 kilometers in depth, which is really deep. But here is this lake, with its very much activity. And if you look close, you'll notice that there is a volcano mark, Taupo. Taupo is the most active rhyolitic volcano in the Taupo volcanic zone. It is a large, roughly 35-kilometer wide caldera with poorly defined margins. It is a type example of an inverse volcano that slopes inward towards the most recent vent location, the Taupo caldera, now filled by Lake Taupo, largely formed as a result of the voluminous eruption in the Oruanui tephra about 22.6 thousand years ago before present, which would it make roughly 25,000 years. If you think about the big year, it would be at the exact same time as we are now, plus minus a few tens of years, maybe hundreds or something. But anyway, roughly 25,000 years. This was the largest known eruption of Taupo, producing about 1,170 cubic kilometers of tephra. This eruption was preceded during the late Pleistocene by the eruption of a large number of rhyolitic lava domes north of Lake Taupo. Large explosive eruptions have occurred frequently during the Holocene from many vents within Lake Taupo and near its margins. The most recent major eruption took place in about 1,800 years BP from the last three vents along the northeast-southwest trending fissure centered on the Horomatangi Reef. This extremely violent eruption was New Zealand's largest during the Holocene and produced a thin but widespread Phreatoplinian topo ignimbrite, which covered 20,000 square kilometers of North Island. So we have a volcano. Keep me updated about Taupo. There is a lake, many quakes, and a volcano. And probably some of you have heard of it. Tsunami Lake, Taupo damages boats, residents scared by hair-raising earthquake. An earthquake that terrified locals appears to have produced a small tsunami in Lake Taupo, which damaged boats. GeoNet said the 5.6 magnitude earthquake, which happened at 11:47 p.m. on Wednesday, was strong. The quake was 20 kilometers southwest of Taupo and 9 kilometers deep. At the time of writing, 5,440 people had self-reported to GeoNet as having felt the earthquake. Photos sent to NewsHub appear to show part of the foreshore on Lake Taupo washed higher up onto the beaches and grass areas, which Haristo says was down to some sort of tsunami. So here you can see how far the tsunami reached on land. There appears to have been some sort type of a tsunami, or what we might call a saihe, which is when the water slushes backwards and forwards like in a bathtub. We aren't sure yet what the source of it was and exactly what happened, but yes, there does appear to be that. There was like a tsunami or a seiche. Yeah, that's a funny word for people who speak Swiss German. A GNS spokesperson said tsunami-type waves in lakes can be caused by earthquakes, landslides, or even weather conditions. They said these have occurred in the past at Lake Taupo, according to historic records. Our experts are still looking at earthquake activity at Lake Taupo from last night, and at this point we don't know if this is just a seiche, just a tsunami, or some combination of both, the spokesman said. So, let's scroll up again to the beginning. 5.6 magnitude quake in New Zealand, Lake Taupo, created a tsunami. Now we go to the other Alps, which are in Europe. Swiss underestimate lake tsunami risks. Sourhern was a flourishing city when it was flooded in the 60s after an underwater earthquake. Swiss lake tsunamis are disasters in waiting. Once Geneva University researcher Guy Simpson, the co-author of a study into a giant tsunami on Lake Geneva in 563 AD triggered by a rockfall and underwater waterslide. No, landslide. But in early times, people didn't like living close to the lake shores because of mosquitoes. Yeah, maybe not. But anyway, this has changed, he told swissinfo.ch. There's a risk, but fortunately, they don't happen very often. He said the chances of a magnitude 6 earthquake hitting Switzerland, such as the one in 1601 that caused a huge tsunami on Lake Lucerne, come around about every 100 years. The last one was in 1946 in Canton Valais. But tsunamis can be also triggered by overloaded underwater sediment giving away, he added. It's hard to say whether we underestimate the dangers of a tsunami. We know now more than about the risk, and we know that the seismic risks in Switzerland are moderate. But in general, society tends to forget about these tsunamis events. Yeah, many reading mistakes. Maybe you have to check this Lake Lucerne thing out. Open hazards. Switzerland, what do you think when you hear Switzerland? Swiss chocolate, Swiss cheese, Swiss steak, Swiss army knives? How about Swiss earthquakes or tsunamis? The Swiss pride themselves on neutrality. Yes. Yeah. The most expensive neutrality you get. But anyway, natural hazards heed no border. Way back in the year 1601, a magnitude 6.2 earthquake struck near Basel. As you might expect, there was considerable damage from the shaking, but something extraordinary took place. A Swiss tsunami. 50 miles away, the quake triggered the fall of several large landslides into Lake Lucerne. Landslide generated tsunami, at least 5 meters high, then went out to destroy homes and cause several deaths. I once made a video about something else when there was all of a sudden sediments coming out from the bottom of the lake. And I think I have been reading something like this just before I made the video. And now I cannot find it anymore. Maybe I have to check out this video I made, and I will put a link below to that because it might be very important. Maybe I just have to search it quickly. Yeah, I couldn't find it. I will try to find something because I think it's very important to understand that these things are also possible. Let me draw quickly. This is a lake in Switzerland. Mountains, and that's the lake. Maybe you have to draw mountains here. Maybe I have to start all over again. Make it much simpler. Lake. That's water. Oh man. Last try. Water. And if there is a rockfall, it could create a tsunami. But in this other case, from which era I try to find something, maybe that's a better map. Rocks falling down, they create waves. And we have a tsunami here, on the other side of the shore. But there has happened something like there was a barge or something, they were digging and it was fixed with wires somewhere, and all of a sudden from the bottom of the lake there was stuff coming out, which created also wave and displaced the barge. They were digging sand or something. So this wave, or whatever it was, or how you call it wasn't any tsunami or such a big thing, and it happened rather recent, like 20 or 30 years ago, maybe even less, I don't remember. But there was something coming from beneath into the lake, which forced the water, of course, to the side, and stuff started to move. If we have these kind of things going on within the Swiss Alps, we might have to think about the whole region a little bit different. It's not that there is water pouring out of almost all mountains. Many of them have glaciers. We have geothermal activity in the valleys, many baths, geothermal baths, and Roman stuff all over the Alps and north, south, and within the Alps. We have to also think about the geothermal activity, how it might have been some, let's say, 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, a few hundred years ago. It might have been much bigger. There were many more places where you actually could, or where was warm water pouring out. Mineral or whatever content was higher than it is nowadays. It was now slowly decreasing all those years. And it might be that it sharply increases or slowly starts to increase again. More water pouring out and more stuff is happening. And there are much more people living there in the Alps region than back in the days, 400 years ago. Which also coincides with the sun cycles. And there are many sun cycles now meeting each other at the same time. But anyway, Taupo, Swiss Alps, and Alps in general, very interesting places. Some of them have volcanoes, some of them don't have. Or do they? Maybe volcanoes and glaciers and all these are just misunderstood, wrongly interpreted. Would be quite a thing. But anyway, make up your own mind about glaciers, mountains where we have water pouring out. In my opinion, if we have a mountain where we have water pouring out, it doesn't really matter if it's like hot or iron rich or very mineral or whatever, radioactive. If there is water pouring out, the mountain is alive. And as long as it is alive, it will have its own fluctuations. So sometimes there is more coming out, sometimes there is less coming out. This is how I see the thing. But anyway, I leave it here. Alpine tsunamis are very interesting. Thanks.